panic sets in, Carney trapped as Trump targets Canadian judge of International Criminal Court. Mark Carney, Canada's new Prime Minister, faces unprecedented challenges both at home and abroad. His efforts to engage President Trump on trade and diplomacy have yielded limited results, leaving him cornered. The latest escalation involves U.S. sanctions on Canadian ICC Judge Kimberly Prost, following her authorization of an investigation into alleged U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan. Prost, along with judges from France, Fiji, and Senegal, now faces asset freezes, travel bans, and potential arrest if she enters U.S. jurisdiction. These sanctions challenge Canada's sovereignty and intensify political pressure on Carney to defend multilateral legal processes while managing U.S. relations. The sanctions are severe, freezing U.S.-linked assets and restricting travel for Prost and other ICC officials involved in cases affecting U.S. and Israeli personnel. Washington frames the tribunal's work as a threat to its nationals, viewing it as politically motivated. For Canada, these measures signal both a direct challenge to its judicial allies and a warning about the treatment of Canadian officials in international law. Carney's leadership is now scrutinized for balancing judicial defense with maintaining a fragile U.S. relationship. Domestically, Canada faces a slowing economy. Unemployment has risen across nearly all age groups, with youth unemployment at 14.6%, the highest in over a decade outside the pandemic. Job losses hit full-time private sector workers hardest, and consumer confidence is falling. Rising living costs, stagnant wages, and political uncertainty have intensified criticism of Carney, as citizens question whether Canada is protecting its economic and sovereign interests while staying committed to international agreements. In an attempt to address the economic pressures, Carney recently announced the removal of 25% tariffs on roughly $21.7 billion worth of U.S. consumer goods, effective September 1, 2025. While this step aims to ease trade tensions under the USMCA framework, tariffs on steel, aluminum, and certain automobiles remain in place, reflecting ongoing trade disputes. This decision is a double-edged sword. While it may prevent immediate escalation, it is also perceived by critics as a concession that weakens Canada's bargaining power. The move highlights the challenges of maintaining economic leverage against a powerful neighbor while protecting domestic industries from undue pressure. Fiscal challenges add further complexity. Provinces such as Ontario have accumulated massive debt, making it one of the world's most indebted sub-sovereign borrowers and raising concerns about potential credit downgrades. Meanwhile, federal spending priorities, including substantial international aid contributions, have fueled public frustration. Many Canadians perceive these expenditures as diverting resources from pressing domestic needs, further fueling political discontent and creating fertile ground for opposition parties to capitalize on perceived mismanagement. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party have positioned themselves to exploit these vulnerabilities. Poilievre has been vocal in criticizing Carney, framing him as ineffective in both domestic and international arenas. His Canada First platform emphasizes resource development, energy independence, and trade resilience, contrasting sharply with Carney's more conciliatory approach. The Conservatives argue that only decisive leadership can restore economic stability, defend Canadian sovereignty, and maintain credibility on the global stage. With the federal election approaching on April 28, 2025, Carney's performance in navigating these overlapping crises will likely dominate public discourse and electoral considerations. The ICC sanctions also have implications for Canada's broader international relationships. European allies, including France and Germany, have expressed concern that the U.S. targeting of international judges undermines multilateral law and judicial independence. Canada's ability to maintain strong relationships with allies while facing U.S. pressure is now a key diplomatic challenge. Carney's international maneuvering, including discussions with European leaders, will determine whether Canada can assert its role as a principled yet pragmatic actor on the world stage. The geopolitical stakes are high. The U.S. administration's assertive foreign policy challenges traditional norms of international cooperation. Canada, as a middle power, must navigate this new reality carefully, balancing alignment with U.S. interests against its own national priorities and multilateral commitments. Decisions made in the coming weeks will influence Canada's economic health, diplomatic standing, and ability to uphold international legal norms. Carney's predicament also signals risks for other Canadian officials operating internationally. The targeting of Judge Prost sets a precedent for potential political interference in global legal processes, raising concerns about how Canada's judicial and diplomatic actors might be treated in the future. How Carney responds could either reinforce Canada's commitment to justice or signal a retreat under external pressure, with long-term implications for its credibility and leadership in international institutions. The domestic political implications are equally critical. Opposition figures like Poilievre are capitalizing on public dissatisfaction, highlighting unemployment, inflationary pressures, and perceived liberal mismanagement. By framing Carney's leadership as indecisive and reactive, the Conservatives seek to present themselves as a party capable of navigating both domestic and international crises with strength and clarity. Public sentiment appears increasingly receptive to these messages, particularly as Canadians witness the direct impact of international events on their daily economic lives. Ultimately, Carney's legacy is at a crossroads. His repeated concessions to Trump, combined with a cautious and measured approach to the ICC sanctions, have placed him under intense scrutiny. The choices he makes now could either restore confidence in Canada's global credibility or further erode its position in trade, law, and diplomacy. The coming weeks will be critical in shaping the trajectory of Canadian politics and determining whether Carney can successfully balance national interest with international responsibility. The Trump administration's targeting of Judge Prost has initiated a geopolitical test that reaches far beyond a single case. Carney's response will define not only Canada's immediate relationship with the United States, but also its role in upholding the rule of law and defending judicial independence globally. The stakes encompass Canada's economy, sovereignty, and international standing, demanding leadership that is principled, decisive, and capable of navigating this multifaceted crisis. As developments continue to unfold, the world will be watching closely to see whether Canada can assert itself effectively or remain trapped between external pressures and domestic expectations.